Good afternoon, I'm Rob Boskamp, and you're listening to South Texas Midday. Thank you for joining me on this Friday, January 2nd. Former Beeville Police Chief Kevin Baer still wants to work with the surrounding area, but in a different role.
I'm going to be a 40-hour week plus accessible county judge.
Baer told KIII News this week he's now running in the March Republican primary for Bee County Judge, where he'll face Commissioner Semi Farias and Christopher Linney. The city of Beeville announced this week they had rescinded Baer's termination as their chief of police after a third-party investigation, but then accepted Baer's voluntary resignation after he was offered his job back. This past August, the city of Beeville terminated Baer after a complaint of misconduct was submitted to the city. Baer denied making any inappropriate comment, along with the claims of inappropriate behavior within the department.
I was given the opportunity to resign or be terminated for this allegation, this confirmed allegation. I refused to resign. I did nothing wrong.
The investigation concluded with a recommendation that any issue be addressed internally. The Port of Corpus Christi will swear in 2 newly appointed commissioners next week. Michael Hunter is scheduled to be sworn in on Tuesday. Amanda Torres will take the oath of office on Wednesday. The Port Commission will also select a new chairman this month. Current chairman David Engel reached his term limit and is expected to step down from the role. Drivers near Aransas Pass will have a little change of scenery as the city put the final touches on its new welcome sign. Rosemary Vega, CEO of the Aransas Pass Chamber of Commerce, told KIII News that the sign is a statement about the city itself.
We are in the heart of the coastal bend, and we're very proud of our community and our city, and we want to make a statement that we are here, and we're here to accept visitors, and we welcome them. It's going to be the start of that.
The project has been 3 years in the making, with finishing touches to be completed in the coming days. In sports, high school baseball coach Lee Yeager will receive the 2026 South Texas Softball and Baseball Winter Banquet's Lifetime Achievement Award. Yeager has coached high school baseball for over 3 decades, including 25 campaigns within Corpus Christi ISD. He coached the Carroll Tigers from 2000 to 2014, which includes a Class 5A state championship in 2010. As Veteran Memorial's head baseball coach, he has led the Eagles through multiple playoff games since the school opened in 2015. The latest streak began in 2018 when the Vets marched to the Class 5A state semifinal. The 20th edition of the South Texas Softball and Baseball Winter Banquet will be January 15th inside the Henry Garrett Ballroom of the Hilliard Center. Tickets go on sale Monday. In this weekend sports roundup, the Corpus Christi IceRays will be in action at the Hilliard Center tonight and tomorrow. They take on the Amarillo Wranglers. The IceRays are currently in last place in the NAHL South Division standings. In college basketball, it's a South Texas Showdown in Edinburgh as Texas A&M Corpus Christi and UT-RGV face off tomorrow afternoon. Tomorrow's men's and women's games at the UT-RGV Fieldhouse are part of the Southland Conference schedule and the university's South Texas Showdown rivalry series. The women's game begins at 2 p.m. And Texas A&M Kingsville men's and women's teams will kick off 2026 at home as they face the Cameron Aggies in Lone Star Conference play. The women's game begins at 5:30 p.m. And here to wrap up South Texas Midday, Spencer Cihak checks in with Rio Grande Valley Business Journal reporter Kristen Mosbrucker-Garza to learn more about SpaceX.
Founded in 2002, SpaceX grew from a small company in California to a whole incorporated city in South Texas. Joining me now to talk about the company's growth in South Texas is Rio Grande Valley Business Journal reporter Kristen Mosbrucker-Garza. Kristen, thank you so much for taking the time once again.
Thank you for having me. We really appreciate it.
Starbase began in sorts in 2014. It's now fully incorporated. What has it been like to watch the transformation of the Brownsville area with the growth of a company like SpaceX?
Oh my gosh, it has changed so much. I used to live in the valley about a decade ago. And so I remember going to Boca Chica Beach and kayaking around and just how desolate and remote it was. And just for context, like even in something like 2019, there were only a couple hundred cars on that roadway, Boca Chica Boulevard, the road to SpaceX and Boca Chica Beach. And fast forward to just last year, TxDOT did a study that there are more than 4,000 cars on that same road. And that is it's just one example, but I think just when you think about the scale of the growth, that just kind of blows my mind.
Absolutely incredible. And I'm sure, given the ownership of the company, I'm sure it's a lot of electric cars, so it's probably a pretty quiet drive. Now that road you've reported on, they're actually planning on expanding it?
Yes. And so right now it's like a really bumpy, full of potholes, 2-lane road, super narrow, there's no shoulder. And yet, SpaceX obviously launches rockets. And so they attract a lot of people. The city of Brownsville tracks how many people with credit cards from out of town come for the SpaceX launches. And I think it was like 10, 20,000 people essentially visit just for that time frame. And because no one knows the exact date of the launches, they tend to stay a couple days. And so it's very much of an economic boost for the area. But the status of the road right now is honestly pretty congested. There's quite a bit of traffic, a lot of commuters, but TxDOT, because it's a state highway, has plans to essentially turn it into a divided 4-lane highway, which would be very different. I mean, they're going to have to actually displace quite a bit of wetlands to make that happen. They're hoping to draw down from a mitigation bank of sorts. And so there's going to be some land preserved into perpetuity to kind of offset some of the environmental destruction. But it's going to be really different. There's going to be a lot more space. And there's even plans for a bicycle path towards the beach. And it's going to be about a 14-mile stretch. And so it's a pretty big project. We don't know yet how much it's going to cost, but it's definitely going to really take the area from, something that's very remote and very inaccessible to, 4-lane highway. I mean, it's like going into almost South Padre Island.
Oh, wow. Now, critics of SpaceX have a lot of environmental concerns surrounding. You've talked about just the expansion of the road. Will that make it easier for people who want to visit Boca Chica Beach, easier for them to go visit?
So yes and no. They are widening the road. There's going to be more space. There's going to be more amenities, but SpaceX has spent about $3 billion on its development. And so that includes everything from a rocket launching manufacturing facility to these really large launch pads, and then even a mixed use development with restaurants and retail. But the thing about it is that it's actually, while they're public roads, it's private property for the most part. It's owned by SpaceX, with the exception of the beach itself. So the beach is open typically as much as possible, with the exception of safety concerns right before they do a test launch, and then typically right after, to make sure that they clear any debris. But because of this road construction, it kind of sounds like the roadway may be less accessible because of all this development happening.
The city of Starbase is the first new city in Texas in about 30 years. What is that like?
It's really interesting because, they have a mayor, like they're only a couple hundred people, but they elected a mayor and they have a council. They even have a professional city manager. But with the exception of really the city manager and, a couple other administrators, the representatives for the city of Starbase all work for SpaceX. And so it sort of is very much quite literally a company town, right? And the homes are all typically within actually a gated area, including their city hall. And so again, they're these public roads, but they're behind gates, and can be a very insular community. But they have a volunteer fire department. They have local residents who walk to the meetings. Like, there's public engagement. They have a natural resources, like environmental conservation committee, that's like an advisory group that they just started up. They've I think reached out to partner with community organizations to get involved. I know that they have helped the sea turtle group. I think they lent them some of their ATVs a couple times so they could travel more of the beach and save more of the turtle eggs. And so, I would say it's a very active community. It does give the vibe a little bit of a homeowners association because it is so small and it is physically gated, but it's a municipality and they're growing and dealing with some logistical challenges, I imagine. For example, there is no water supply for the city of Starbase. And so right now, all of the water that is consumed there for both industrial and for residential use and commercial is actually trucked in. And so they have a deal with the city of Brownsville, but you'll see the giant water trucks. Now, I do understand that they're trying to build a pipeline to bring water to this growing city because they've had quite a lot of development. They have this something called Rio West. It's a mixed use development along the Rio Grande River. It's going to have like a rooftop bar where you can look at the space launches. But again, it's my understanding is that it's not going to be open to the public. There's even an advertisement for a hotel that they're going to build there. But again, I understand it's going to be more of a corporate housing situation. So while there's a lot of investment, a lot of development, it's also very much of a gated city.
There's been a lot of talk about the investment. What are some investments that everyday people have access to and are seeing?
So within the city of Starbase, nothing actually. But in the surrounding Brownsville area, there's been a lot of demand for housing. SpaceX has about 3,200 employees that work for them and thousands more contractors and subcontractors. So local businesses, local hotels, a lot of restaurants have seen an uptick in, new customers, in, growing their business and catering to people who work with and around Starbase and SpaceX. So, sort of purposefully, it's a little difficult for them to open it up because they are a Department of Defense contractor. And so there are some security concerns. And so while there's a lot of development, it's really just the beach that is open to the public.
Now, in return, SpaceX has also asked for and received a significant amount of economic investments for its efforts. What does that look like over the years?
Yeah. So one thing that is actually expiring this year is the initial tax abatement from Cameron County. So that means the county will actually start reaping some property taxes from SpaceX. Now, I don't have the exact figure because the company has acquired more land over time. And so I don't have the value of their tax bill, but I imagine it'll be a couple $1,000,000 or so to the county. But recently they've asked for more incentives from the state of Texas. So they want to create a Texas enterprise zone. And so they have two applications out. Typically the cap on something like that is $3 million or so, but they're asking for two Texas Enterprise Zone jumbo projects. And so they're actually asking for a state sales and use tax refund of about $7.5 million if the company creates 1,000 more jobs and invests another $1 billion by 2030. So that's kind of the give and take that folks should expect.
Kristen, it's been so fun getting to learn more about SpaceX and Starbase. We're recording before the new year. This will air just as the new year, 2026, gets started. Is there anything people should keep an eye out on in Starbase, SpaceX for 2026?
Yeah, I do expect the city to keep growing. The council is considering expanding another by essentially annexing 1,200 more acres of land within its city limits. But it's my understanding that that land is actually for environmental preservation. That will be that land bank or that mitigation bank that I was talking about earlier. And so that's something to think about. It's possible that there may be some more commercial development in the area. They're going out and doing, they're giving out permits, and they're actually contracting with a lot of businesses in the Brownsville area and hiring a lot of local folks. They were actually the most popular booth at a recent job fair in Brownsville because, you know, they don't just hire rocket scientists, right? They hire purchasing managers and accountants and other office jobs as well. So I think definitely they're going to be hiring a lot of folks. That roadway is probably going to start being widened, and I just expect more growth and more rocket launches.
Rio Grande Valley Business Journal reporter Kristen Mosbrucker-Garza. Kristen, thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you. I really appreciate it, and this was really fun.
And that is the latest news and information on South Texas Midday. I'm Rob Boskamp. Your community arts calendar and more is on the way.